Hi and welcome to Smart Talk. This is Jeff Costello-McFeat. In this episode, I'm going to cover why it's so important to be able to say a polite but firm no thank you, why that is so difficult for many of us to do, and how to handle those conversations as and when they do come up. Thanks for listening. So the key reason why it is so important to be able to say no thank you in a given situation is that until you're able to eliminate all of the other potential options, possibilities on your time, your resources, your attention, it's impossible to say yes to the things that you really want to do, that you've dedicated as your priorities, that you've thought out, that you've planned, that you intend to spend all of your time, effort, and attention on doing and achieving. And without the ability to say no when you need to, you'll just get sidelined. You'll get distracted. It's going to be impossible to focus on what you need to do. So, given that it's so important to be able to say no to focus on your priorities, why do so many of us find it so difficult to do that? As children, we probably didn't. Anyone who's spent time with a 2-year-old knows that the word no is probably one of their favorite words that they repeat all the time. And sometimes as those children grow up, I think they take jobs in bureaucracies where they still derive a bit of pleasure from being able to say no to someone who's come along to them with a request. However, for the rest of us, it does seem to be a really difficult thing to do. And why is that? Well, it's simply because if you are looking at the option of making someone happy in the moment, in the short term, by agreeing to their request, or turning them down, the short, simple, easy road is always the one that's going to lead to disaster. It just is. But it's the one that is often taken. I think people will tend to think ahead of the anticipation of the reaction from the other party. If you're giving a yes, and even the act of saying yes, it's cheerful. You smile. It's nice. It's got positive connotations. The response you get from the other person is, "Oh, thank you so much. That's amazing. That's awesome. You're awesome. Thank you so much for agreeing to that, being a part of that, or what have you." Whereas a no tends to have so many negative connotations. Even saying the word no, your face tends to frown and so on. And, and people just don't like it. They feel uncomfortable doing that. But that short-term discomfort really will lead to much bigger discomfort in the long run. So, what's going to be an effective way to handle the kind of conversations when a polite no thank you is going to be necessary? 1, be prepared. 2, be ready to ask questions. 3, evaluate and definitely take time to evaluate your answer if you need that. 4, communicate your answer and do so firmly, with respect and politeness. And we'll cover each one of those steps. Be prepared, the Old Scout motto. And in this case, what we mean by that is taking the time to know what your key priorities are and what you have available in the terms of time, resources to devote to achieving those priorities. If you know what your goals are going to be, then you've got a great context to be able to take a potential opportunity or request and see if that does or does not fit into what your plans are, what you're wanting to achieve. Asking questions is going to be critical. The standard open questions, starting with who, what, why, how, where, etc. These are going to be your friends in this situation because it's very unusual that you would be presented with an option, a request, or an opportunity where all of the details are laid out beforehand. Typically, you'll find the more negative aspects are buried somewhere deeply in the corners. You need to pull out the information on that. And open questions are a great way to do that. Also asking about timing. For example, when the person needs an answer by, and whether this is a single one-off or this is some type of ongoing commitment that you're looking at. And also be aware of the fact that the one can quite easily phase into a long-term commitment, whether you're looking for that to happen or not. So once you've had the conversation, you've asked all the questions that you need, you've got the information, you're ready to evaluate. Now, it may well be that you know in the moment whether this is 100% a yes or a no. And by all means, if you're feeling confident either way, go ahead and communicate your answer there and then, and you're good to go. In many cases, that may not be the situation you're looking at. And by all means, there is nothing wrong with taking time out to consider things further without even giving a tentative answer beforehand. Simply give the other person a timeline. I'll get back to you tomorrow, the day after. Give me a week to think about it. Stick to that timeline. Do get back to them. But that will buy you some time to consider things. You also may realize that there are questions or further information that in the moment at the time you didn't consider, you hadn't thought of, that do come to you. Sleeping on things is wonderful for that. And by the next day, you may need to go back and revisit some of these things that you spoke about beforehand. So having done that, you've lined up everything else. It's time to make your decision. Once you've made your decision, we move on to the next step of communicating that. A sincere thank you is going to be a really crucial part of whatever answer you're going to give. If someone has come to you, for example, they've asked you if you'd want to sit on a committee or chair some organization or what have you in a voluntary sector, they've taken the time to look at you, look at what skills you might bring to the table, and put you forward for this. So you need to be respectful of that and thank them for that. It is a compliment. It truly is a compliment to be asked to step in and perhaps do these things. And a sincere, polite thank you is going to go a long way, again, no matter what way the answer is going to go, to making that a smoother transition. Now, if it is going to be a no, it does need to be firm as well. Certainly be careful of easy excuses. I mean, for example, if someone is asking you to come along to some event you just don't want to go to, if you say something along the lines of, well, oh gosh, I would really love to, but I have to look after the kids on that Tuesday night, so yeah, that's going to be difficult for us. Because what you may well find is the other party just turns around to you and says, oh, hey, no problem. Hey, we're going. We got a babysitter. Just bring your kids around, drop them at our place. We'll go off together. Fantastic. Boom. They got a solution for you, and you're done. You don't have an excuse anymore. So be real about what you're saying, and give your reasons if you need to. Give your rationale if you need to, just so it's really clear. I mean, in my line of work, salespeople are trained very well at looking at objections and reasons for people not to do things and try to overcome them. So just be aware that you might well have some pushback on that. But again, if you stand firm, if you know exactly why you're taking that decision, then you shouldn't be swayed in the moment either way. And again, don't forget to thank the person and move on in a polite way. I mean, just another example, when years ago I was potentially headhunted by a competitor, and at the time I was very happy in my own position. The position that the competitor put on the table was a good one, but in my circumstances it wasn't really exactly what I was looking for. And I had a polite conversation, and on my behalf it was a no thank you. However, fast forward 2 years, and same organization again approached me with a different offer this time. That was great, and things that my company had also changed for the worse. And so this was a fantastic opportunity for me to go ahead. So by all means, do not burn your bridges. So wrapping up, please do feel comfortable saying no in situations where that is really the answer that you need to give. It's the only way that you're going to be able to focus on the priorities that are important to you, to be able to say yes to the things that really matter, and to take care of business in the way that it needs to happen. Handle those conversations firmly, politely, but effectively. And thank you for listening. If you found this useful, please like, share, or subscribe, and we will see you next time.